Hey, and welcome to Leadershipisation, all things leadership. My name is Beth Bergen, and I'm a global leadership and communication coach. I work all around influence. It's my jam. And so most of my clients are executives or managers or business owners, and I help them to build influence through developing and strengthening their leadership and communication skills. And what that means is that they can lead cohesive teams, they can really drive the results, and they can increase their own and potentially their team's visibility in the organisation or in the sector that they're working in. Now, I'm here most Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So in Sydney and Melbourne, it's 2 p.m. In Brisbane, it's 1 p.m. This week, because of circumstances, I am pre-recording this. So if you've got any questions, just pop them in the chat and the platform that you're watching this on, and we'll make sure to get back to you with what the responses are. Now, I've got a question for you. This is how we're starting today. Do you have this kind of endless mental loop that keeps on going on, where what you do is you weigh the pros and the cons and you check things out, and then you go and ask for more input, and then you come back and you double check something and you still don't decide? Does that sound like you? And sometimes that can feel really productive. But what I want you to understand is that overthinking is actually procrastination all dressed up to look really pretty. It's polished up procrastination, because when we don't have clarity about our goals, it's not about us thinking more about them. It's actually about us trusting ourselves a little more. So today, what we're going to look at is having you stop tying yourself in kind of mental knots, having you start making decisions that move things forward, and being really confident and calm with no regret, making those decisions. So we've got a number of topic areas that I want to look at today. And what I'm going to start with is this one. Why is it that leaders overthink? This is something that comes up an awful lot for me with my clients. Why is it that we overthink? Well, it's usually fear-based. Which sounds really weird, I know, but think about it from this perspective. You're afraid of being wrong, so you don't make the decision. You're afraid of being judged, so you don't make the decision. You're afraid of missing out on something. Maybe I haven't got all the information. Maybe it's not quite so good. So you don't make the decision because you don't want to miss out. And maybe it's because you think there might be a better opportunity over there, or there might be another option. So you're busy looking for that, so you don't make the decision. Now, what I want you to come back to is this. Overthinking is actually a form of control. And that control is based in that fear of being not quite good enough. So it's grounded in perfectionism. And what it means is that your overthinking is driving this process in your brain where you're putting off whatever you want to do or whatever the decision is until it's perfect. Now, you're going to hear me say this a couple of times today. Done is 100% better than perfect. That's a real mantra for me. Done is 100% better than perfect. Now, as always, indecisiveness has a cost associated with it. So this is our second point. There's a cost of that indecisiveness. You're losing time when you could actually have been taking action. time when things could have been sorted out. You're losing momentum. So if you're bottlenecking with your overthinking and your procrastination, then there's a danger that not only you, but also your whole team are losing their momentum. And as a result of those two things, what you're doing is you're losing trust. You're losing the trust that you have in yourself and your ability to make decisions, but you're also in danger of losing the trust of your team that they have in you. Why is that? Because when you're hesitating, when you're procrastinating, when you're bottlenecking, your team is mirroring that hesitation. They're mirroring that, and their confidence drains away because they have no clarity. That's a lot to think about. It's a lot to think about. But that cost of that indecisiveness is impacting in all areas of your team, or if you're a business owner, in all areas of your business. Now, that leads us to the third point, which is really that this myth of the perfect decision. We get all caught up with, oh, it has to be perfect. And as I said to you before, done is 100% better than perfect. Making that decision is 100% better than making no decision at all. There is no perfect decision. There is no perfect pathway. There are only informed choices. You can always change your mind. So you make the choice based on the information that you have. You've gathered that information. You've done that in a timely fashion. Make the decision. You can always change your mind and make a different decision. I'd like you to remember that your goal as a leader is to be moving forward. And every time we move forward, there may be a few little flaws in it, but let's move forward. Let's make that decision. Now, I know, and it's very real. I often have my clients say to me, decision fatigue, Beth. I'm making so many decisions, it's ridiculous. Decision fatigue is real. And this is why it's important for you as a leader to come back and be thinking, are there some small choices that I can bypass? And if we think about a lot of, people like Steve Jobs, I'm not sure who else does this. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but what you wear, what you eat, Steve Jobs used to wear the same thing all the time. Why? It was one small decision that he didn't have to make. So things like what you wear, what you eat, all of those small things that you need to be doing, they actually can clog up your mental capacity. So consider what you can actually be doing to reduce this cognitive load. If you can get rid of a whole lot of things from your brain by either delegating them, by automating them, or by prioritizing them, then you've got a bit more of a framework that you can actually be working into. So as much as you can, get rid of those smaller decisions, but certainly be thinking all the time, what can I delegate? Excuse me, what can I automate? And all those sorts of things. Oh, thank you. One tool that is really important to use here, and this is the fifth point I'd like to discuss with you. One tool is what I call the 70% rule. And this is, have a go, or the 80% rule rather, have a go and think about making decisions when you've got 80% of the information. 80% of the information that you wish you had. Now, why does this work? It works because done is 100% better than perfect. If what you're doing is waiting to get 100% of the information all the time, then you're actually going for that perfection, which paralyzes you. And when you're paralyzed, you're overwhelmed, you're not making any kind of decision. So try this and use the data that you get that data quite quickly, but just be telling yourself 80%, that's it. And a really good example of this is if you were going to implement a new workflow, right? Now, if you're planning this workflow from out here, but you're trying to decide how to get it perfect and you don't put it into practice because you're concerned that it might be perfect, not only are you, holding everything up, not only is there a cost to your indecisiveness, but you're waiting until you have all of the information. Now, very often, the best processes are those that are put in place with 60, 70, 80% of the information so that the people who are actually doing the process can then add the fine tuning. You're never going to get that before they've started doing the process. You won't have 100% of the information, quite simply because they haven't done it yet. So they haven't experienced some of the challenges of doing it. So try that 80% rule tool and see how that's going to work for you. You might feel brave enough to do it with 70% or even 60% of the information as you build your confidence. Now, building your confidence, scratchy throat. Building your confidence is all about you starting to believe in yourself. And to do that, you need to trust your intuition. Lots of people go, oh, that's a female thing. I think that intuition is actually a really underutilized leadership intelligence tool. Yeah, it's one of those things that needs to go into your toolbox because your intuition is actually, it's like a pattern recognition that you've built up from your previous experience. It just gives you a sensation somewhere. You get a sense of what might work and what might not work. And I love it because it's a really good blend of your logic from that past experience and also from your gut. So what I know is that the more you trust yourself, the higher your ability to trust others is. Because when you're doubting yourself, you're more likely to be doubting other people. When you trust yourself, you're more likely to be open to trusting others. And when you're trusting your intuition, you're actually more able, I think, to learn from your mistakes. So let's explore that confidence cycle a little bit. You're trusting your intuition. I'm talking to you about some techniques that are going to help you to actually build that confidence. So that confidence cycle is built up when what you do is you make small, timely, relevant decisions so that you're making those decisions, they're timely decisions, and you're able to build up that trust. You're able to build that trust in yourself. And what happens is that this in turn fuels bigger, bolder decisions. And this is what that confidence cycle is all about. You're trusting yourself to grow that confidence. You're trusting yourself to become a better decision maker. I want you also to remember this. Confidence comes after the choice or the decision. It comes after the choice or the decision. You might be a little bit tentative. You're building some confidence in your decision making, but after you've made that specific decision, then your confidence will grow to that next level. It comes after, not before. And I want you to be really clear on that. Yeah. So that's that confidence cycle. Get used to it. Be growing at smaller, timely decisions, larger and larger and larger decisions. So, number 8, the final point that we've got is, in order for you to help to manage your own overwhelm, we want you to manage the overwhelm of the team as well. So the 8th point is all about you shifting to growing and creating a decision culture, where what you're doing is you're modeling that decisiveness. You're not that bottleneck. You're empowering others to act. You're trusting them enough so that they'll do things. So that what you can do is to start to normalize this ability to observe, to review, and then to change a decision. So the kind of language that you might be using is, let's test this and learn. Let's test this and learn. And that way, you're creating that decision culture, the confidence to make the decision, because if it doesn't work, we can change the decision, and we're always going to be learning, so that you then would model, oh, here, let's identify those lessons and let's look at how we can apply them. Yeah. So some reflection questions for today to see how you're managing your overwhelm. The first one is this: think about, where do you get stuck? Where do you get stuck with people, with projects, or on a personal basis? Understanding yourself, that self-awareness, is one of the most important leadership intelligence tools that you can have. So where do you get stuck? And then move on to that, identifying what is the real fear behind your hesitation to decide. What is that real fear? Is it fear of being judged? Is it fear of being wrong? And once you understand that fear, then you can be working with it. And the third thing is, what would it look like? What would it look like for you to trust your intuition more? That's a biggie. Because remember what I said to you, intuition, it's not necessarily this woo-woo feeling. It's actually drawing, you instinctively drawing on your knowledge and your past experience. So what's a summary here? Well, it feels safe. Feels safe to be overwhelmed sometimes, but it actually cuts your progress, it costs your progress, because what we know is that action comes from clarity. Make sure that you make those decisions, make them with 60, 70, 80% of the information that you need, because then you can refine them. Learn to live with that mantra, done is 100% better than perfect. Don't get caught up in the paralysis that comes with this need to be perfect. And really, really importantly, trust yourself, because the more you trust you, the more likely you are to trust others. So thank you so much for spending time with me today. As I said at the beginning, this is pre-recorded. So pop your questions and comments in the platform that you're watching this on, or hashtag replay if you're watching a replay. Now, just a reminder, November is my birthday month. 365 days of growth, which is a daily, short, less than 1 minute video with a lesson for today. 365 days of growth has been reduced to 97 Australian dollars for the whole year for a subscription. And that's available for you all of November. So check out to see the link for that, so that you can go directly in and pay will be in the comments. I would love to have you join us for that. The people who've already subscribed are sharing their great results with me, which is just fantastic. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. Bye now.